Hello, everybody. We are very happy to be here. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this seminar. And then I also want to thank to all the people that have registered to spend 1 hour with us talking about a topic that focuses on anti-gender campaigns in Romania. But before I share my screen and the PowerPoint with you, I would like to say that I'm very happy to be here as a member of the CIVIS Gender Network, because this seminar is organized by the CIVIS Gender Network. And I'm twice pleased to also present, together with my colleague Ionela Băluță, a topic focusing on Romania, as I also highlighted. I'm an associate professor for the University of Bucharest. My colleague is a professor at the University of Bucharest. And I think that now I'm going to share the slides with you. Okay, 1 second. Ionela, could you please tell me? Okay, thank you. So the topic of our presentation is anti-gender campaigns in Romania, from parliament to radical right digital media. I will share this presentation with my colleagues, so the first 15 minutes are mine. Then the floor belongs to my colleague, to Ionela. I will address the first part of this structure. Therefore, I will discuss about the main domestic topics that fall under anti-gender campaigns. I will also discuss about the main anti-gender actors, and I would like to finish the first part with some general remarks on topics and actors and how they align to the anti-gender scholarship that we have so far. Then Ionela will focus on a case study that will address an attempt to ban gender studies in Romania, an attempt that happened 3 years ago. She will begin her presentation by focusing on institutionalization of gender studies in Romania. And then she will address actors that opposed or actually supported the ban against gender studies, and she will focus on the main opposition narratives that we have identified so far. So what I want to highlight from the beginning is the fact that, like in many other countries, in Romania, anti-gender actors and campaigns have challenged gender equality, feminist politics, LGBTQI rights. It is important to note that the opposition to gender equality and feminist politics is not new. The topics that have been targeted by anti-gender campaigns are not novel, however, and I do want to stress the however and what comes after. So, however, it is important to acknowledge the fact that the present opposition that we have nowadays is primarily connected to opposition against the so-called gender ideology, and presumably called and something that anti-gender actors call LGBTQI ideology. This opposition also has a specific focus on gender. Our perspective aligns with that stream of scholarship that highlights the fact that assaults against gender equality and feminist politics, in fact, belong to a new political narrative, a new political way of seeing the world that is less liberal and also less democratic. Um, I want to briefly address the main topics, the main domestic topics that fall under the anti-gender campaigns, and I will start with the first one. That's gender equality. I think that most of the people here are aware of the fact that anti-gender campaigns target gender equality. And when they target gender equality, they in fact try to advance what I call alternative knowledge on gender. I developed this idea in a forthcoming article. I define alternative knowledge on gender as counter knowledge. That's used by anti-gender actors to make different claims on gender equality, women's rights, and LGBTQI, and in fact oppose justice claims of feminist actors and the LGBTQI actors. What it is important to highlight on a domestic level is the fact that, like in other countries, gender per se is being excluded or eliminated from different political documents assumed by institutions in Romania. For example, last year in December, an alliance between mainstream political parties and radical right politicians, they replaced gender equality with equal opportunities within a parliamentary political declaration assumed by both chambers of the parliament. One politician who's a former Baptist minister and also a member of the ecumenical prayer group within the parliament, he said that gender equality should be replaced with equal opportunities because gender equality attacks the millenary human binarism. Then another topic that's attacked by anti-gender campaigns is feminist movement and policies. Then a serious a serious topic that has constantly fallen under these type of mobilizations include LGBTQI rights. In 2018, and you might know this, in 2018 they tried to support a referendum to strengthen definition of marriage within the constitution as the union between a woman and a man. But but during the last 3 or 4 years, they have constantly tried to advance legislation to oppose LGBTQI rights. They try to advance what we call regressive legislation. For example, they try to instrumentalize LGBTQI rights to oppose pornography, to protect children against LGBTQI content, and so on and so forth. And recently, on the verge of the fact that the 2024 is an electoral year for us, a political radical right party announced that it will try to reiterate, to repeat the 2018 referendum. The Istanbul Convention is also a target of these anti-gender actors. However, and I want to stress this, the Istanbul Convention is not the main target. Reproductive rights are also targeted by anti-gender campaigns, especially access to abortion. They are not trying, in fact, to ban abortion, but they increase the number of obstacles for women who try to access abortion services. They also try to expand their allies. Education. Education is a highly contested field. And if we overview all the collective actions that they tried to sorry, I will rephrase. So education is a highly contested domain. We can overview several acts of opposition within education. They target both formal gender education and also non-formal gender education. And this is a novelty in comparison with other countries where they usually focus on formal gender education, especially gender studies. Then sexual education is again a highly disputed topic. If I move a bit forward and to the actors that we managed to map so far with that are highly active within anti-gender campaigns, they usually include family associations, anti-abortion groups, religious conservative groups, nationalists and populists. So they actually include a constellation of they actually include a constellation of actors that show diversity. The first group of actors include civil society associations. These associations have already been active, or we can also identify newly established associations. Sometimes we can identify well-established groups that mobilize anti-gender politics and topics. Oftentimes we notice that in the same individuals are members within different organizations and also part of the leadership of different organizations. Also, what I want to highlight is that sometimes these organizations rebrand themselves. They change their names when they confront, for example, a failure. Then we have a very important group of anti-gender actors that includes includes the Romanian Orthodox Church and various religious denominations. They are highly active in regards to the education domain, but also when it comes to family policies and body politics issues. We also mapped public institutions such as the Romanian Academy. Then politicians and political parties are a special kind of cookie. They have become highly active and a very influential actor. They usually embrace two types of strategy. One strategy is a more opportunistic strategy where they try to mobilize and secure conservative votes, and the second strategy actually shows that opposition against gender ideology is a central pillar of their core values. For the latter strategy, I can give you an example. The December 2020 parliamentary elections paved the way for the Alliance of the Union of Romanians. In Romanian, the name of the party is Alianța pentru Unirea Românilor. It is the fourth political force in Romania nowadays. And it is founded on four pillars: family, motherhood, faith, and freedom. And this party, in fact, is the sole political party that incorporates opposition to gender ideology in their political platform. Then another important group of factors include traditional and digital media, and I'm referring here to some specific communication channels of the Romanian Orthodox Church, but also to mainstream media and also to radical right media. And what I can say about radical right media is the fact that empirical data shows that their narratives move beyond the, let's say, traditional conservative delegitimation tropes of gender studies. They actually embed conspiracy theories in their rhetoric. And last but not least, some topics have also mobilized the involvement of actors that are usually less associated with anti-gender conflicts. For example, trade unions. They have been mobilized in connection with education. I would like to say a few words about topics and actors and how they relate with the scholarship on anti-gender campaigns. The first idea that I want to highlight is the fact that some policies face more opposition than others. That is, some topics face more opposition than others. Then, given the fact that next year is an electoral year, some anti-gender topics will be reiterated by political parties and not by civil society organization like it happened in the beginning. Then, if we take a critical look at the anti-gender actors, we also notice that they are diverse. Therefore, our mapping of actors also shows something that's been highlighted by anti-gender scholarship, that is, they are not a homogeneous group. In fact, they show diversity, and I will stop here. Ionela? You should open your mic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Oana, for all the introduction and then for this overview that is very useful to the second part of our presentation. I will focus now, as you already announced, to this attempt to ban gender studies. Most of you I know already know, in June 2020, shortly after the total lockdown, the context is important. We were still in a period where any civil and public manifestation were forbidden. The Romanian Parliament passed a law that aimed at banning the concept of gender identity in any educational or training process. And once again, it focuses both on formal and non-formal education, as you highlighted. And very briefly, I will not talk about it, but it's important to say that after this moment, a lot of public and political debates took place, and an important national and international mobilization finally led to the result that in December 2020, the Romanian Constitutional Court declared this law unconstitutional. Unfortunately, today we can still talk about gender identity and gender social construction in our courses and in this conference. We consider why we choose to focus on this study case, because we consider that attacks on gender studies are an important episode, an important theme inside the anti-gender campaigns, because the stake is the political control over knowledge production. It is a very serious stake. Those last decades, all over the world, a lot of colleagues underlined that critical knowledge was the target, is one of the target of reactionary policies. And we saw once again in many countries the attacks against political correctness, wokeism, Islamofascism, gender studies, and understudies. But banning gender is intimately related to political control over knowledge production and paves the way for the de-democratization, as one already highlighted it, and we also have some very important reflections from David Paterno, Minke Ferlu, Judith Butler, Andrea Petio, and so on. In the European context, a lot of various forms of attacks to gender studies and gender scholars were reported. And in the region, briefly, I just want to recall two important episodes. In Poland in 2018, the suppression of the anthropology and ethnology as autonomous discipline. They are now part of a new discipline, the study of culture and religion. And in Hungary, the most known case, the suppression of the only 2MA in gender studies, and also the closure of the Central European University. Now, before coming to the 2020 moment, it's important to very briefly recall the Romanian context, and in order to understand why it was so important in 2020 to ban gender studies, where gender studies so spread, so institutionalized, and our answer is not. Because under the communist regime, which was one of the most totalitarian in the region, the academic space was drastically controlled. So gender studies were introduced only after 18 in the Romanian academic space. And in present, in contrast to previous analyses, I claim that institutionalization of gender studies is unfinished, and it is a fragile process characterized by a lack of institutional autonomy, a scant of scientific legitimacy, ideological attacks to feminism, and also a lot of anti-gender discourses and actions. There are many challenges and difficulties. I just want to stress on the public political level, because it's in the Romanian context really is very strong, and it's very important for understanding then the opposition narratives. We have a strong opposition to everything that is categorized as communism, leftism, egalitarianism, a strong delegitimization of the idea of equality between women and men, hostility to feminism, and growing anti-gender discourses and actions. And in 2020, more specifically, we had also, still have, fortunately, 2 MA in gender studies at national level, both based in Bucharest. But no module on gender equality, diversity, or sexual education in pre-university curricula. Instead, we have religious as optional but functioning as mandatory discipline in most of the cases in all public schools during the 12 years of public education. So in this context, we still had this ban of gender in education in 2020. And I mainly, for this presentation, I mainly worked on parliamentary debates, public positions of politicians, institutions, and scholars. As you see, the actors are more or less the same that one identified for the general and the other anti-gender campaigns, with maybe 3 specific elements. The initiators of the bill were 2 senators from the People Movement Party, right party. And one of them, who was the most vocal, is very close to religious groups. And it's important also to stress that in Romanian context, we have really a great ecumenism, because Orthodox Church, Catholic Church, Evangelical and Protestant churches work together against gender studies and in all anti-gender campaigns. And then, maybe specific for this moment, we had 2 scholars that who have taken public stance against gender studies, and their position were very used by all these anti-gender actors and platforms in order to show, you see, scholars said that gender studies should be banned, so their position played an important role in these attacks to gender studies. And now, in the last part of my presentation, I try to give you an overview of the main opposition narratives. I selected a lot of discourses in order to show you that mostly all of the actors developed these narratives, but of course I will not have the time to quote all these discourses. I will just select some little parts in order to respect the time and to give you space for discussions, but we can be back to some aspects and elements if you are interested. So I think maybe the overarching opposition narrative is this equivalence between gender ideology, proselytism, and neo-Marxism. And somehow this opposition narrative is present and developed and cross-cut all the others. And as you can see, lots of actors insisted on that. For instance, the spokesman of the Romanian Orthodox Church considered gender ideology an artificial ideatic construction present on the agenda of the regressive progressivism. I don't know what he means by this, but they are his words. The next narrative, opposition narrative, is constructed around this rejection, the idea that rejecting the binary construction, male-female, rejecting the binarism, the sexual binarism, is unscientific. And it's very, very used, and it's interesting to see that in their discourses, they mobilize arguments from biology, nature, religious truth, as if science and religious have the same ontological and epistemological foundations. They don't see any contradiction in putting together references to biology as a science and references to religious as a dogma. And for instance, the this liberal MP expressed very well this rejection. I cannot understand how denying objective biological reality, the natural, and instead promoting fluid and sex as a social construct can be a sign of progress. And of course, he also attacked universities for accepting this concept that he considered unscientific. Okay, the next the next narrative is very spread, not only in Romania, but I think in mostly all anti-gender campaigns over the world. But it's important to recall that in East European context and Russian space, the association of parents play an important role in this contesting of gender education. And then a narrative which is also linked to the previous one, this idea that this is a project of Western ideological colonization, aiming to destroy Romanian identity, national identity, ancestral traditions. So it's really a kind of apocalypse. We have to resist to this project of Western ideological colonization, and it is an argument very spread also in Hungary, in Poland, and in Russian space. In Russian space, we have lots of discourses of Putin, who spoke about this ideological colonization. And now coming more to the academic space, a first narrative is around this idea that gender studies are pseudoscience, they are lacking of scientificity and should not be funded from the public budget. The same arguments were also used by Viktor Orban and his government when he suppressed gender studies in Hungary. And I quote, should public money be used to fund programs that are nothing more than pseudoscience? Should gender studies have a place as a separate program? The clear-cut answer is no. Then the next narrative, it's maybe for the Romanian space or the East European space is very important. I don't think in the other spaces it's very present. This association with Stalinism or neo-Marxism that leads to total delegitimization. It was the same with the Stalinists. There was this idea that dialectical materialism is scientific. I don't understand why we study in a faculty of political science equality or inequality of opportunities or the status of women. We have to study processes, institutions, political values, theories, political history. We cannot offer a master's degree in happiness or unhappiness. You see the total rejection and more marginal thing, this opposition between real intellectuals and tradition, and on the other hand, feminism and gender studies, which of course are not on a traditional knowledge. And for briefly concluding, we think, because I work with Oana on different topics in different projects around these anti-gender campaigns, this 2020 moment attempt to ban gender study is an indicator of the de-democratization process testing Romanian society as well as neighboring and other European states. We really think that there is very important to analyze, to talk about, and to stress that it is not just an attack to some, I don't know, theories and concepts and so on. No, it's about knowledge production and it's about de-democratization. And as Andrea Petio also points out, these anti-gender movements are not simply backlash. Oana also highlighted this. There is backlash. We can talk also about backlash, but it's not only backlash or just a new form of anti-feminism. What is at stake now through these attacks on gender studies, in fact, is the struggle for control of the discourse of the worldview. And anti-gender discourse can serve as a facilitator for a conservative hegemonic narrative about society, family, and morality, and for the elimination of harmful knowledge from academic space. I'll stop here. You also have references in our PowerPoint, in our presentation. Before opening the discussion, maybe I will already announce that next month we'll have another Civic Gender Studies Network seminar from the colleagues of Madrid, and we kindly ask you to register also for the next seminar. But now me and Oana, we are listening to your comments and questions, and we have about 20-25 minutes for discussion. Thank you very much.
The first question is by Emil.
Hi. Thank you very much for this. This was extremely clear and illuminating and very interesting. I have two questions, one very concrete. When the Constitutional Court struck down this law or this ban on gender studies, how do you interpret that decision? Did it have anything to do with international reactions, or do you interpret it in another way? And also, could you say something about the transnational influences on anti-gender politics in Romania? What are the big kind of geopolitical sources of influence? What networks are transnational networks are active, or are Romanian actors participating in? Thank you.
I can start, and Oana, please, then if you have something to add, please do it. Regarding the Romanian Constitutional Court decision, Actually, we have an article. We are working to an article, so we hope we will contribute to a better explanation of this result. We think that from my point of view in this moment, there are two important factors that explain this decision. On the one hand, yes, the international mobilization was very important because we managed, with the help of David Paternot and other colleagues who coordinates international networks, we managed to have about, I don't know, 13 institutional signatures for our amicus curiae, that we registered to the Constitutional Court. And also most than 800 individual signatures from very, very famous scholars all over the world. And generally in the Romanian context, the international opinion and the institutions still play an important role in this sort of struggles. Then I also think it was important that at the Constitutional Court we had a judge, a women judge, who were more aware of this discussion on gender and sex. And I think it was important that at this moment the composition of the court was also more open to discussions and so on. I'm not sure that in present the situation would be the same. And then for the networks, well, it's very difficult to answer briefly, but mainly I think they are the most important transnational networks are religious, because we have a very strong influence both of the Catholic networks. We have the translation of authors like Gabriel Kubi, who gave a lot of conferences in Romania, but also, and most importantly, the presence and the influence of American churches, Protestant and evangelical. And then, of course, we cannot, we also have to talk about the political networks, because we have Putin and Orban at our, you see, our neighbors. And some of our politicians participated in many European reunions of those conservative and radical actors, and we also have a lot of politicians that are part of those transnational networks. I don't see right now other actors. Oana, maybe you can add, please.
Okay, thank you. I just want to briefly add something to your first question, or actually to Ionela's answer, tackling your first question, Emil. I think other institutions besides the ones mentioned by Ionela also played a significant role. And now I'm thinking about the presidential administration, which in fact contested the law. Then I also want to mention universities. The major universities in Romania, they quickly reacted publicly, condemning the intrusion of the MPs within the autonomy of university, freedom of speech, and so on and so forth. You know the arguments. And also, I think that the diversity of the actors within the civil society also played a role, because besides, let's say, research groups, scholars, students themselves and associations of students also mobilized, along with feminist NGOs and also LGBTQI NGOs. I mean, it was an important constellation of actors that opposed and actively engaged in resisting this ban. And also media. I mean, truth be said, there were some journalists and also media platforms that allowed us to present our arguments and construct a public narrative that in fact opposed the one advanced by MPs and several other anti-gender actors. But as Ionela highlighted, we are still working on this. So when it comes to the second question, I also want to add anti-abortion networks. Anti-abortion international networks, they also play an important role. I can also mention the World Congress for Families. Anti-gender actors have been attending the World Congress of Family. And again, I just want to back what my colleague said. Religious networks and various networks of politicians, they are the most important transnational actors as far as I can see.
There are two questions for you in the chat, if you want to read them. One by Antonio Tano and one by Evelyn Seidel.
Okay, so the first question from Antonio. What forms of transnational diffusion, ideas, collective action can strengthen Romanian social movements, feminist and LGBT, to counter the trend of anti-gender campaigns in Romania? This is the first question. And the second question, in Germany, we see a gap between two not homogeneous groups. One working for change and more gender equality, one against anything with gender as a symbolic glue term. We heard about anti-gender campaigns. Is there also pro-gender movement in Romania besides academical groups? Oh yes, thank you for this question. Fortunately, I can actually say yes. We have a very important movement of feminist actors, and I'm talking now about different feminist associations that fight for women's rights, also some informal groups that are feminist groups and support gender equality policies. So again, the answer is yes. And alongside the feminist movement, this is how we actually refer to it. Alongside the feminist movement, we also have two important NGOs that protect and voice the need to respect the rights of LGBTQI individuals, and also outside Bucharest, that's the capital of Romania, in various cities, informal groups of young people mobilizing for both the women's rights and also LGBTQI rights have started to form. So again, the answer is yes. Another idea that I want to highlight is that there is a specificity of the domestic context where, let's say, academic scholars, they work closely with actors from feminist movement or from the movement addressing LGBTQI rights. We are not we are not living in two separate spheres. For example, I also come from the Romanian feminist movement. I've been a president of a feminist NGO for more than 8 years and a half. So there is a strong connection between academia and civil society NGOs.
Yes, I also want to add that in the Romanian context, because this international reference is important, embassies play an important role, and we have some important embassies that support gender equality, and also not only to public stand, but also through financing different projects and actions of NGOs. And then regarding to the first question, how can we strengthen Romanian social movements? I think, as we already state, these international networks are very important in the academic space, in the NGO space, and so on. But also, I think, even if, of course, there are differences from a national context to the other, unfortunately, we are all facing important threats and attacks to gender studies, to gender equality and democracy in all European countries and in other countries. So I think it's important to think to strategies and actions in order to empowering each other's. And it's not only about how can we support the Romanians, because once again, unfortunately, if only Romania had this problem shouldn't be so important. But it is a general threat to our democracy and to gender equality in general. So I think we have to think about common strategies, not only strategies to support
Two questions, one by Catherine Jenkins and one by me. Catherine first.
Thank you, how kind. And thank you for a brilliant talk. This was extremely interesting and clearly incredibly urgent work. I really appreciate your sharing it with us. My question is basically, can you say a bit more about the way that the notion of academic freedom is being mobilized in these contexts? Because as you have just said, Oana, these issues affect other countries as well, and they have their own manifestation in the UK, where I am based. And in the UK, there is this very vacuous, I want to say, use of the concept of academic freedom to criticize gender studies, to criticize trans rights organizations. And so the idea is that academic freedom somehow requires the shutting down or the limiting of the influence of academic research in these areas, paradoxically perhaps. So I wondered, is there a similar paradoxical move happening in the Romanian context? And, you know, if not, what's going more generally, what's going on with academic freedom? Or are there any other of these strange kind of inverted dynamics that appeals that you're seeing maybe on a different topic? Sorry, that's kind of a couple of questions. I hope that's okay, but thank you.
I have a suggestion, and perhaps Ionela will agree with my suggestion, given the fact that you've been working this year on academic freedom. Can you try and answer, and then I can add something new?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Catherine. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, in fact, there is a paradox, because we have also in the Romanian context this use of academic freedom in order to contest gender studies, feminism studies, racism, and so on, and they are accusing us of cancel culture, political correctness. That, yeah, all the topics are also very present in the Romanian space. And recently we had a huge public debate around the question of racism and also feminism. But in the 2020 context, the academic freedom was used, first of all, as I remember well, Oana, by the president of the Romania, because yes, the presidency played an important role because the president refused to promulgate the law and sent it to the Constitutional Court. And in the argumentation of the presidency, they identified this article in the Romanian Constitution that defend the academic freedom. So it was a political and strategical use of this constitutional article in order to say this is a proposition that is not unconstitutional because it affects this article. And then at the level of universities, yes, all the important universities had a position, but it's also important to say that we have, I think, 2 or 3 universities who are very supportive to gender studies and talked about academic freedom and gender studies, and another 3 universities, from which University of Bucharest, that refused to address the topic of gender studies and focused on this academic freedom starting from this article in the Constitution and arguing that the Parliament should not decide what we are allowed to teach or not teach in them. But it was very specific in the context. If not, you are very right. Yeah, this academic freedom is often used against gender studies, feminism perspective, and so on.
Okay, I just want to highlight the fact that we actually took advantage 3 years ago of the context. And this narrative of academic freedom actually supported us to resist against this ban. And it was an argument both embraced by civil society organizations, feminist NGOs, LGBTQI rights NGOs, and also by universities. And also, given the context that Ionela tackled during her presentation, this is a strong argument when you want to be heard. And also media reacted quite well to this argument, but again, it is highly related to the context.
So if I may add a really last question, because unfortunately our time is running so fast. I wanted to address with you something that of course might concern also my country, Italy. So the role of women from the far right in this issue of the anti-gender movements. I know it's a very delicate and unfortunately even, I would say, painful issue to address. But as a matter of fact, we see all around Europe, and not only Europe, the rise of this and the rising power of these anti-gender women. So you rightly stress, of course, the positive role of the feminist movement, but did you address in your research, unfortunately, also the rise of this female power in the anti-gender movements?
Thank you for your question. This is a very delicate topic, but it is a highly important one. Until now, I'm not aware of any domestic research tackling the position of women in radical right parties or the position of women in radical right associations and in anti-gender mobilization, to be more specific. But in fact, we have a strong presence of women within anti-abortion groups. If we think if we think at the 2018 referendum for family, one key leader was a woman. She was a lawyer, and she was leading the opposition. and the support for the 2018 referendum. But again, as I highlighted, I'm aware of studies from other countries, but we do not have any, to my knowledge, that addresses the position of women within these parties, and also the anti-feminist views that women share.
Yes, I would add that we are lacking of course, of researches. In a report on the 2020 elections, I elaborated 2 years ago. I study, for instance, the women organizations of political parties, and I studied a little bit, only based on their public positions, the women organization of this radical right party, our. This organization were led at the moment by the wife of one of the co-president of the party. And what is important, it's very linked to this pro-life, because they don't identify themselves as anti-abortion, but pro-life actors. What is important in this agenda of the women organization of our is a very, very traditional and religious topics. All those women worked for the family, for children, for religious, etc., etc. And of course, they are playing a very important role in legitimating all political action against the right to abortion, against gender equality, and so on. And even if in their position I didn't identify still identified position against, for instance, the presence of the women on the labor market, they defend the maternal role of the women. And then lately, it is not at all studied, but I think it should be. This hour has a constellation of very strong personalities, and one of that personalities is a woman, Șoșoacă, who separated from our, founded her own party. She has very controversial and public positions, but she is present in all electoral polls. So yeah, it's a very good question, Marcela, but unfortunately, as Oana highlighted, we have just some elements that's not yet a real research on the topic, but yes.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. There are actually 3 questions in the chat. If you want to have a look at them, there is one by Anna Paola Nunu, one by Silvia Diosanio, and one by Carla Tomazzini. Unfortunately, we have only 5 minutes left. So if you want to have a look at the 3 questions and give a quick answer.
So I will start with the last question. Ana Paula Nunu, she says the following: I know that Romania is geopolitically and historically very close to Moldova. Do you also work with Moldovan researchers and feminists? If you are asking the 2 of us, we are not working with scholars and feminists from Moldova, unfortunately, but I know that some associations that focus on juridical studies, they do work with Moldovan scholars. What is the international community's response to Romania's anti-gender policies, and how do these policies fit within the broader context of global discussions on gender equality and LGBTQ+ rights? If the international community is European Union, For example, members of the European Parliament do oppose anti-gender politics and the backlash against LGBTQI rights. If the international community refers to European research institutes, universities, associations, we actually managed to create an important network 3 years ago, and the international support was highly beneficial for us because I think that Ionela highlighted this idea. The international support that we received 3 years ago was much wider and actually quite important, or more important, when we look at the support that we received on a domestic level. And I'm not very comfortable with with what I'm saying, but it is actually a fact. Ionela?
Yeah, no, I have nothing to add. I will just briefly answer to the last question because we are running out of time regarding the methodology. We're also working on this. We prepare an article on the challenges, ethical and methodological challenges and difficulties in working on this field. And for this presentation, and since now, as I already mentioned, we worked on discourses and generally available public discourses, parliamentary debates, social media, public positions of those institutions, and so on. Oana worked more than me on those far-right media, and it is very important to study it. Regarding interviews, we cannot have interviews because we were both the main actors of this national and international mobilization, and we also were, we already were the targets of personal attacks. So we are so well known by these anti-gender actors that it's impossible, unfortunately, for us to have interviews with them.
Mm-hmm. And what I want to add to what Ionela said is the fact that now we are exploring new research methods to actually engage with the study of especially the attack against gender studies, and we're also considering the storytelling, but again we are exploring. We are also exploring feminist feminist autoethnography. But definitely we cannot conduct interviews, we cannot engage in this kind of field research. Thank you for your question, and sorry I forgot to tackle it before.
Thanks to all of you. So unfortunately we had to close the seminar, and see you soon next month for the seminar by the University of Madrid. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.